Come on, man. How can you not like Brie Larson? She's like everything. She calls out white supremacy. She's Captain Marvel. She was that kick-ass reporter from the 60s in King Kong. This girl is lit. So I'm going to be doing a reaction to a gentleman under the name of Young Ripper. YouTube for the longest while has been just giving me conservative reactionary kind of videos as recommendation, and it's just boring. Like it's a constant cycle and regurgitation of hating Brie Larson, hating, women in films, hating women superheroes, all to do with the fact that men cannot stomach or empathize with women's struggles or plights. And for me personally, I'm someone who is not really a fan of like the first Star Wars films messages. For the most part, Star Wars was beautifully choreographed, batik. What is batik? It's a different. It's a combination of battle and epic. It's a combination of battle, epic choreography of just significant proportions. After the Matrix, we had Star Wars, and ever since like then, we haven't really been able to recreate action the same way in which I was growing up personally. And there was some significant, obviously, Chinese influence, martial arts influence, choreographed fight scenes. Now we seem to be going for the downright down and dirty, but to be honest, pretty lazy when it comes to action-packed films with not that much amazing aesthetics when it comes to fight scenes. So Young Ripper is a grifter. He's like a reactionary right-wing grifter person who, is milking money and milking kind of like views off the notion that people hate women in cinema. That is the literal crux of the gentleman's argument. The idea that Brie Larson is somehow offensive because she's pushing feminist agendas in films. And this is the funniest thing about reactionaries. They act like films have always been, this void of like no politics whatsoever. Every fucking film that has ever existed is political. There is politics drenched throughout films. There is politics, sexism, religion. It's saturated through the film industry because guess what? Our culture dictates what we are sensitive to on screen, what we find appropriate, what we would enjoy, and what we find acceptable is the word I was freaking looking for. And that is political. That is undeniably in propaganda. And let's be frank about it. When we're talking about Marvel, we're talking about particularly a genre that has tried its hardest to be very progressive, and it's done amazingly. Like the majority of superheroes, psychics, or best friends, is a person of color, and that is a far stretch from like previously where it was more subservient position that a lot of people of color were in. With Falcon now taking the role of Captain America. Brie Larson obviously leading the fold of the Avengers as a woman, and pretty strong woman at that. And this isn't Marvel or any cinematic agenda or propaganda, because Captain Marvel is insanely strong when we're looking at the source material. So we have a load of people who they put these fancy kind of magazines in the bag, these comics in the bag, to demonstrate that they have been reading since day one and are clearly very aware of the elements that inform this nerd kind of culture, but then go on to make videos about how Captain Marvel is a feminist agenda. How is that possible when it is literally source material? But anyway, let's get straight into it, and let's see what Young Ripper has to say about Brie Larson and men complaining that his recent video was a little bit too let's go straight into it.
Yo, we back. Second video of the day, and check this out, man. I've seen comments like this before.
Just a nitpick. I noticed how he's wearing God of Thunder because, all of the Aryan kind of like insecure white males just love the fact that Thor is much stronger than most people of character, and God of Thunder and Norse culture and blah 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 and Vikings, and it's just again just pandering to its highest. This really weird kind of like, I don't use the word coon and I'm not going to use it, so I'm just going to dismantle this particular character for what he is. And we can already see it in the back. He's got the Wonder Woman poster, because that is the ultimate film right now when it comes to DC solo films. Wonder Woman is probably the best one. So, you know, when we're talking about obviously the Snyderverse, they use Wonder Woman as some kind of shield, is to say that we're not sexist because, you know, we love the film, which everyone objectively found absolutely extraordinary. So it's just utterly, it's pathetic. It's pathetic. So let's have a look at what young Rippa has to say about Brie Larson.
Multiple times, actually. More than multiple times. Let's just be completely honest with the situation. I've seen it a lot. You feel me? Now, I have to preface it by saying this. I have my issues with Captain Marvel. I have done numerous videos about the character and the unique shoehorn. Multiple videos of really just spelling out my position and my argument. So I'm not going to spend any time with that because I've already done that. Go watch those videos. And I've only done one video, however, about the Brie Larson thing. And the Brie Larson video that I did was not specifically about Brie Larson. It was more so talking about and trying to make a non-rant video, because a lot of videos are out there that are very critical of Brie Larson. And I wanted to do a video in setting the scene and letting people who don't understand what's going on, trying to give them some sort of understanding. So that was the whole point of that video. Notice in all my Captain Marvel videos.
Right, so just to translate, he was grifting at the time in which there was a saturation of Brie Larson hate videos. To clarify any further, it's just complicit with the culture. Like, there is more than enough videos of Brie Larson for people to go out there and find for themselves as to why people seem to have this really misogynistic disdain for Brie Larson. Anything other than, I guess, challenging of those ideas or whatever, it's pretty much just adding to the fire. So when people are calling you out for adding to the fire, then I don't really see what the issue is.
That I've done, none of them have been centered around Brie Larson. Brie Larson is not my gripe. I haven't even bitched and moaned about her comments or anything like that. I don't center my videos, my criticisms, even after seeing the movie, around Brie Larson.
You gotta love the disingenuous nature in which, let's be frank, Captain Marvel is probably one of the best solo films in terms of like introducing a hero's origin film in the DC universe. Like, the majority of them are bland. The majority of them aren't really that great. Captain America, the first one, was just, you know, the first Iron Man was enjoyable. Like, I wouldn't say it's classic. Guardians of the Galaxy is fun, but ultimately has no substance. A very, very shallow film. Ant-Man, very similar, very kind of like background noise to have in the back. I haven't really rewatched a lot of these like solo films, but Captain Marvel is a film that I absolutely thought was extraordinary. Like, there was so much about it that transcended like the Marvel universe, or the Marvel film, sorry, that had already been released. And you know, it was such a good commentary on where women find themselves, especially within nerd culture and just our society in general. A good commentary on like finding yourself, finding your strength, setting your own parameters and your own limitations, not having those dictated to you by anyone other than yourself. And it was such a good commentary, such a good film for anyone, whether or not you're a young girl or, you know, you're a young boy growing up. You know, if you can empathize with other people and you have that capability of empathy and putting yourself in another person's shoes, the story is fruitful. So, you know, the disingenuous nature of trying to paint out that you were just creating Captain Marvel videos because, you know, of your own kind of like fruition and, you know, initiative, is complete bollock, because the majority of your videos will be centered around the time in which a whole load of hate and a load of like ridicule towards Brie Larson was going on. So you pretending that your criticism towards the film is not in direct commentary or in direct relevance to the commentaries that are being hurled at Brie Larson. It's disingenuous.
But I've seen comments like this. I'm gonna show it to y'all. This has popped up multiple times.
Yes! I have to say it. Sorry, just in case you can't read that, it says, at least Brie Larson is outspoken about minorities in the media. You being black should be all about that, instead of being sexist little, I'm not going to say that word. And it's absolutely right. From the majority of clips that I've seen from this gentleman's page, he does his absolute best to belittle the narrative and the talking points of people of color or people in marginalized situation, and he will do it from a very disingenuous kind of like stance, where it's like, oh, I'm more commenting on the content itself, and I'm not really commenting on the individuals or, you know, the nature of the politics or whatever. I'm just a content consumer, you know, I'm just content consumer. And it's like, no, we can see that your stuff is laced in politics. We can see that your commentary is based on a very reactionary right-wing leaning, as is famous on YouTube now, and is generally very kind of like lucrative right now. So no one buys the act. No one takes that seriously, and people are calling you out for it. So, Bobo.
And Guy says, at least Brie Larson. Now, this is a video on which I'm doing a reaction.
Also, just to point out, there was a title just underneath there, and it's like, he has it in bold capitals, like the particular aspects of the video that, you know, he wants you to concentrate on. Like right now, there was a video of a gentleman of color, and it was like, something universe shows its true colors, and it's like, this guy wants us to believe that, oh, it's just a content consumer and I have no politics in my, no greater knowledge of excellence. It's like, dude, come on. Like, if you're gonna be a bigot and if you're gonna be someone who's a reactionary, then at least do the hard lifting in terms of reading and trying to articulate your point, as opposed to just being a reactionary loser online complaining about women being in films.
To the Avengers Endgame to the end trailer, and I didn't dog Brie Larson or anything like that. I had a reaction once I saw Captain Marvel, but it wasn't anything. Like, Brie Larson is just an actor.
And I find it hilarious that it says, response by him, I don't beg to be included or ushered in by whites. That's for losers. Says the guy wearing God of Thunder hat. You know who your audience is. Stop it.
And a lot that's wrong with this character and this unique shoehorn. Doesn't matter who they put in there. It wouldn't have mattered. It's more so centered around the character itself, the writing, and that's been my gripe. Can't speak for everybody else, but that's been mine. This guy says, at least Brie Larson is outspoken about minorities in the media. You being black should be all about that instead of being a sexist little bitch. The reason I want to make a video out of this is because I feel like you got to monetize your haters, number one. But I've seen this comment before, and I want to address it. Now, like I said before, Brie Larson has never been the center point of my arguments.
Which is bullshit.
I did a long video about the unique shoehorn. It's like 34 minutes long. And not once did I mention Brie Larson as being a part of the reason why it's a unique shoehorn. And even in my reaction, it's not about Brie Larson. But I have done videos talking about defaults, and that's what people do. They have these like already made arguments. So this guy needs, in order for any of this shit to be valid, he needs me to hate Brie Larson. He needs me to despise Brie Larson. He needs me to have something against her.
Dude, you could fap over Brie Larson for anyone, like, for as far as anyone is concerned. What you do with your actions, your words, your speech, whatever, is very different. You know, if you contribute to the shitstorm that is a whole bunch of sexist, misogynist men making content about how Captain Marvel is terrible and all of these particular talking points, then you are a part of the problem. Like, you're trying your hardest to detach yourself from a situation by trying to paint yourself as a content consumer and not a political commentator. But the politics came into consideration when the hate towards Brie Larson, and thus the hate towards the Captain Marvel films, come from the fact that Brie Larson is outspoken about the fact that there is a white problem in Hollywood. That is it. That is where the objective entirety of criticism towards Brie Larson comes from, and a lot of the myths and a lot of the rumors surrounding like how she's X, Y, and Z and blah blah blah. Like, this doesn't happen to men. This particular hate mob, this particular, you know, citing kind of like hatred towards particular people doesn't happen to men as much as it does to women, especially women who are outspoken in Hollywood. And you are contributing towards that. So stop playing dumb. Like, you're either intelligent or you're not. And right now,
he says at least Brie Larson is outspoken about minorities in the media. And because I'm black, right? He's looked at this is literal racism, right? He's applying a set of attributes and traits to me because of my color. Neither here nor there, but let me say something.
There's nothing racist about aligning responsibility to people to look out for marginalized people. That is literally our obligation as a society. Your idea is that you shouldn't be held accountable for, I don't know, having bad potential, like, I don't know, speaking points, opinions, you know, you shouldn't be held to account for any of your kind of like contributions towards the issues surrounding sexism and women online, particularly being someone of a marginalized community. No, that's someone thinking the best of you, thinking that because you may have experienced, and probably on average have experienced, X, Y, and Z discrimination, that you could empathize with other marginalized people. But very clearly that was an oversight from this gentleman indeed.
And I'm guessing what he's referring to is her wanting to have more diverse media following her around or something like that. Journalists, I have no idea. Actually, I do have an idea. She said something along those lines.
Let's be real.
I don't have any idea if that.
That's what I'm trying to say. Like, he pretend like, oh, I'm detached from it. Oh, actually, I have a point, and it kind of like involves me having to know about this particular situation. Now I know about the situation. It's like, come on, dude. Like, just be at least honest. Like, if you're an honest dickhead, then people can take you seriously. If you're a dishonest swine, then you just come across as creepy, bro.
That's specifically what he's referring to. I'm guessing that's what he is. Let me address the latter before I get to the core point. She says, or he says, sexist little bitch, right? This is a part of the default, right? Need you to despise Brie Larson. Need you to have an issue with women. Need your criticism to be because it is a woman and solely that, right? Okay. So you're sexist. They do this type of shit. Really if you criticize a black character, kind of like you're racist, right? You criticize a female. White men tend to be the only character that you can just criticize, and everybody's like, "We'll take it for what it's worth." At the very least, some may get butthurt about it. But any other like in minorities. So because she wants to do that, I should be about that, you know, and I shouldn't be critical of her. Let me say this. And I said this in the comment. I don't beg to be included or ushered in by white folks.
Nope. I've already
all of that.
The fact that marginalized people should pretty much empathize with other marginalized people. That is the obligation that we see as humanity. It's not really the hardest point. Infants understand that.
It's not how this works. So no, I'm not under any sort of obligation just because I'm a black person to think because she up and said some old slick shit regarding being surrounded by less white men. I am under no obligation, none whatsoever,
And that's reactionary right-wingers for you. They feel no obligation to actually contribute to the best of humanity. They don't feel any obligation to try and better the situation or try to unmuddy the waters. And then the guy complains about how people maybe have got the wrong picture of him because they feel like he definitely hates women. I mean, you're saying it yourself. Like, the current situation that minorities are in, the current situation that women are in when it comes to the entertainment industry is peak. So, you know, for someone to say that I don't have any obligation to make that better for them, ultimately dictates that you are comfortable with the position that people of color are in the entertainment industry, that women experience in the entertainment industry. Your words.
To hold my criticism because she said, and then they want you to be put on a pedestal because you offered to do that. Like, who the fuck are you, homie? It's too many ways to get it for me to be worried about your bitch ass ushering somebody in. Fuck. I've already said a product is a product. A human affair is a human affair. If there's a product or something that I don't watch Game of Thrones, but if that's your thing, man, you're gonna enjoy it. I mean, enjoy it. If I feel so good about myself and I gotta, that's the sort of ideology that they instill in kids. I want y'all to keep that in mind. They instill that shit in your kids, which is why they're always talking. If I feel so good about my, so you can put it in front, hey, we got this black guy, we got this minority here. Oh, look at him. Oh, now I can accept myself. I feel so good about myself and I gotta, that's the sort of ideology that they instill in kids. I want y'all to keep that in mind. They instill that shit in your kids, which is why they're always talking about representation. All that is, hey, let's validate, let's prop up, let's put these guys in superior positions, the Hollywood elite, so they can feel good about themselves. All in these kids.
Okay, so I'm just gonna end the video there and quickly end on this particular point. So I think it's funny because, like, reactionaries are some of the stupidest people on the electronic platforms that you will ever find. In terms of obviously representation, when people talk about representation as if it's something trivial and something minor, and being seen in films is not something that will inspire people to do X, Y, and Z. This is a cop-out by many conservatives and many reactionaries who, without representation of their physical selves, not the individual in general, but just their aesthetics, their race or whatever, they would crash in terms of self-esteem. They would absolutely burn at the fact of going to cinema because they're not seeing themselves and being able to, you know, vicariously live through Tom Cruise's shoes and so on. And we can see this in the fact that there's such a backlash on YouTube about woke films. You know, woke films is just the basic key kind of like term or, you know, new buzzword that basically is, I hate new films because there is no straight white males in it. I hate new films because it's making other people feel like they can accomplish stuff. I hate new media because it's not aligning to my heteronormative lifestyle. I hate new films because it tells women that they have the right to actually say no. It's all about maintaining previous hierarchies. It's all about neglecting the fact that we live in a liberal society and we're trying to push more inclusive experiences on screen. When he talks about the fact that, you know, this is all just because Hollywood elites need to feel good about themselves. Like, no, we actually have literature that tells us the fact that when you have people who aren't necessarily represented in certain media outlets and people see a certain figure, a certain body shape, a certain race or whatever, people start to naturally assume that there is something wrong with themselves, and this actually leads to mental health issues. An example being is that when Western TV was introduced into particular, I believe it was foreign kind of like tribes and stuff that weren't exposed to Western kind of media, they noticed a significant increase in the abundance of eating disorders. What do we know about Western media? We know that it promotes an unhealthy beauty standard when it comes to weight. These things are important and these things are not trivial. They actually affect people's lives. But you would know this if you read a little bit more than just 4chan. But you know what? Certain people just love power. Power corrupts and corrupts absolutely. Stay sexy, y'all. Sex work is work.